Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of Theorymon TCG podcast. Because this is the first edition ever, we're going to be taking a little time to introduce ourselves and the podcast. I'm your host, Telmo. I'm probably better known as the guy that runs Pokédex and makes all the videos, at least for now. As far as competitive stats go, I have won a regionals and a cities, and I also got top 4 in other regionals. And this was all this season, mostly because I wasn't playing competitively last year, and I wasn't even playing the game 2 years ago. And with me is mine and your host, João Lopes. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello. Hello everyone. My name is João Lopes. I am a writer at 60cards.net, and also I'm a player for about 6 or 7 years. Although I haven't been playing as much competitively this year and the last year due to college, I have some results. I've been runner-up on the national championships in Portugal in 2013. I've made it through the LCQ in 2010, and I've won multiple regionals and cities and whatnot. In general, I love to talk about theory, and I'm always up to date about Pokemon, so here we are.
This is Theorymon TCG, your podcast about theory for the Pokemon trading card game. Our goal with this podcast is to talk more about general theory about the game, but we will also be trying to keep our themes as current as possible, as up-to-date as they are. And this week is a perfect example of that, because we will be talking about the looming threat of Nightmarch. In the
drama.
In the current meta. So yeah, let's jump right in. Do you want to start?
Yeah, why not? So, Nightmarch is obviously the best deck in format. Okay.
At least that's what everyone says.
Yeah, at least that's the popular opinion. Well, in every format, whenever there's an expansion coming, there's always the best deck in format.
Yeah.
And sometimes that deck can be hated, and sometimes there's no counters to it, and well, the popular opinion seems to be that Nightmarch is unbeatable. Now, what are your thoughts on it?
I think, as we will find out while we discuss this deeply, I think the hype about the deck is not founded. I kind of feel like this is a little bit like... I've been playing for very little time, mind you. And in this 2 years, we've seen Donphan being like everyone hating on the deck, saying it was insane and something had to be banned. And then after that, it was... I don't know, I think Yveltal with Hard Charm for a little bit was, oh my god, this is unbeatable. And then we went straight to Toad, and then Toad stayed like the best deck in format for a long time. But Verizon Genocide kept winning. I don't know why everyone said that.
But each of those decks is much better to play against than Toad. So I don't know why people are complaining when Toad dominated for I don't know how long. But that was really oppressive.
And Toad didn't even leave. I mean, we're still... We'll get to that in a second, I think.
It's not the same thing, but...
It seems like I haven't talked to you about this at all. So this is the first time. So it kind of seems like we are on the same page a little bit about the...
It seems so.
Yeah. Is having such powerful decks bad for the game? I mean...
Well, I think that's true for any competitive card game. I know you've played Magic as well.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing at Magic, at Hearthstone, at Yu-Gi-Oh! Although I hate that game, but whatever.
In Magic the Gathering, there was... Actually, we went through one of the possibly most broken formats of all time in Modern. With Eldrazi. I know a lot of our listeners have no idea what we're talking about.
But basically, it's the same thing as Nightmarch because it's really
No.
bad.
Actually, I don't think it's the same thing at all because you either play that deck or you lose 100%. It's terrible.
Okay. It's not as oppressive as Eldrazi, but Nightmarch is a fast, aggressive deck.
Yeah. In that regard, it's very similar. Yeah.
Okay.
It's very aggressive.
Eldrazi is much faster.
Yeah, and disruptive at the same time. So it's really hard to play against. Yeah, that is true.
But those those decks have something in common, that they do something that players don't like to play against.
Yeah.
In the case of, Eldrazi and Nightmarch, is way too explosive first and second turns.
Yeah.
I think it's the first and the second that's really the problem. So,
It's not only that, I think, with Nightmarch, because there's also, Vespiquen vileplume, which is also really annoying, but at least the deck is kind of is a little glass cannon-y in that if it it might blow up in itself, and Nightmarch is just too consistent. You might try to disrupt it with X-Maniac
of course,
or with Judge, but the deck can still go out and do its thing. Which I guess that's what people complain about. It's hard to counter. I guess is the thing here.
And you have a timer too. You basically have to get your counters in. Much faster.
And at the right time sometimes also. So it's understandably hard to play against, unless you're playing specific strategies. And I think we can get into the impact that the deck has on standard. I mean, we can maybe talk a little bit about decks that are more or less played because of Nightmarch.
Yes. Mewtwo, I think, is the
biggest loser.
The biggest loser, yeah. It's a really powerful deck on a vacuum.
Yeah.
But thanks to Nightmarch, it's totally unplayable.
I have to agree. I mean, it's always we've seen some results with Mewtwo when the player that plays it has the luck of getting no Nightmarch in the pairings.
On the ECC.
For example, on the ECC.
We talk about it. The ECC, I think, is a prime example how skewed these meta decks can be. Nightmarch, okay, it's the best deck in format. I think we can talk about it as a fact. But the rest of the decks are in some way meta dependent. And Mewtwo is a prime example of that. If it doesn't face any Nightmarch, I think the Mewtwo is the best deck. Period. The most proactive, aggressive deck there is. However, it loses to Nightmarch, so...
Yeah, but at that, imagine that Nightmarch was non-existent. Let's pretend for a little bit. I just want to counterpoint what you're saying.
Yeah. No Nightmarch, what a world!
Imagine that there is no Nightmarch. Mewtwo suddenly becomes the best deck in format, right? Wouldn't the format then adapt to counter Mewtwo, and it would become risky again? I'm sure there's some.
So let's go on attention here. What does counter Mewtwo?
I don't know. Gengar. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't, but I'm just throwing...
I think it doesn't.
Yeah. Maybe Trevenant does? I don't know. I haven't tried it. Because, once again, I've been testing for originals and no one...
that's the big impact of Nightmarch of the meta. All meta decks have to counter Nightmarch.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
We have...
It's super prevalent and, yeah.
Manectric bats. Even though it's a good deck in a vacuum, it has a solid strategy on its own. But it's basically the first resurgent of a counter to Nightmarch.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, not only does Manectric have a way to deal damage to the bench on its own with Overrun, and then you have the bats, and it's also a very easy deck to add something else to help, like Yveltal. I'm talking about Baby Yveltal. In Manectric bats,
yes.
As you yourself have played.
I love that deck.
Yeah, and some versions with bats that I have played myself on the ECC, for example, and I have beaten all the Nightmarch that I got. So
the Sceptile bats, that was like a mimic of this deck.
Yeah, I guess. Is it good against Nightmarch though? I don't really know if it's better than just playing Manectric or.
Well, I played mostly with Baby Vetala, like you said, and with that, it isn't a tech, it's like a side strategy. With that complement, I think the matchup is pretty much an auto-win. What you don't one-shot with Vetala, you just use a Golbat to do it.
Yeah.
And the price rate is even. You lose a prize, and you take more than one prize because you use bats and Yveltal.
Yeah, you're not. If they drop out a Shaman, you can just kill it with a Manectric.
Yeah, you might have a Shaman out, but they have as well. So the trade is even.
Yeah.
And they are better off killing the bats than the shaming.
Yeah.
So on the long run, it doesn't even profit.
Yeah, I definitely know that matchup. I've played my version with Toad, and I liked it better then, but that was mostly because I was also worried about Mewtwo in that tournament, because some decks were playing it, and I felt like having Toad, just slowing them down, so that we could build our bats in our bench, and then pull the trigger on of their one of their Mewtwo's was really good there.
That was a really cool tech, the Toads.
I mean, people were playing it, but I don't think they were playing it the way I was, and I was playing Faded Town as well. But yeah, we're kind of getting a little bit off track here, just to. But yeah, that's also a way that you can play Manectric Bats. But the issue with Manectric Bats that I have right now is I don't think it's a great deck at the very moment.
Well, the thing is, the Manectric Bat is still a great counter to Nightmarch.
Yep.
However, it just counters Nightmarch.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Yeah, it's getting worse against the rest of the format, which is a big problem, I think. And even Nightmarch, let's just say that it's not as easy as it used to be, because they also have Fighting Fury Belt.
Oh yeah, that's a big change now.
And you kind of have to play some extra cards with Manectric Bats, like Megaphones, and sometimes they don't come out at the right time. That also happens, and you have to... because you have to play Startling Megaphones, the deck isn't as aggressive or as consistent as it used to be. So you kind of...
Isn't it ironic that if Megaphone was a supporter, it would be actually better? It would be so much better.
I guess. I mean, the thing is, you can play Zerozic, but it's not the same thing.
It's just one.
Yeah, because it's just one. Exactly. Yeah. I totally agree with that. I mean, the fact that you can get it back from the discard pile is important, because you can play one-offs of supporters, and playing one-offs of items is a little bit worse, I guess.
Yeah,
but
that's like I always say that when it comes up in the conversation that Megaphone can counter this and that. I think Megaphone is not as good as a card as it can appear to be. Yeah. Just because of that, it's a item that must come up on the right time.
Exactly. I totally feel you. I totally understand what you mean, and I thought about that a lot too.
Yeah.
It's a little... I compare it a little bit to Spirit Links and to Rare Candy. People love to say, you just stick a Spirit Link down. You can always evolve your Megas. But there's some times where you can't. There's some times where you don't find a Spirit Link.
That's why you play 4 Spirit Links, even if you play like 3...
Yeah.
Of the Megas.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they are sequential cards. They have to be played in a certain sequence.
But the meta is so fast that you can't play a card that you can play down immediately.
Yeah,
you can't do
I guess. If you get stranded with a Startling Megaphone in hand, and it's the only one you have, with a Manectric deck, I don't think you discard it with an Ultra Ball or a Sycamore. You kind of hold on to it. Because if they stick the Fighting Fury Belts on their Pump Caboose, you are in a very bad spot.
You are forced basically to attack with Manectric, and that's
the problem with that is
rate.
The tempo, right? I mean, you kind of have 2 energy on the Manectric to attack well in that position.
You are so vulnerable to a Lysander.
Yeah, that's where I think Toad is a little bit better in that regard, because they can't just put the Fighting Fury Belt down at all.
So we agree basically that Manectric has lost his spotlight.
Yeah, I think so. Unfortunately, because I love that deck. I mean, I won my first.
Well, it did have a good run.
Yeah.
Basically, when the rotation happened, Mega Manectric was the big deck, and as soon as people figured, well, but Nightmarch is actually good without Mew. Then Magic Bats came into fruition to counter Nightmarch.
But now Fighting Fury Belt is out, and the deck gets a little bit worse, and the meta also changed, so yeah.
So Magic Bats is just dead, basically. And what about the new decks? We have Trevenant, we have Greninja, we have a lot of new decks.
Yeah, we can go one by one, I guess. Trevenant, I think it's like the biggest auto win against Nightmarch, in my belief, at least. I think it's from the newer decks. I think it's the one that just totally destroys Nightmarch. It's so hard to counter for 2 main reasons. Well, the first one is, as soon as they have a turn, they item lock you. And
Yes.
if they play their cards right, you're item locked for the rest of the game. So you kind of have a single turn to set up with Nightmarch. And even if you do set up, once they hit the break, they can start taking on knockouts on your guys, and you can't even put
Because the
Joltix
break is
down.
actually really good.
Yeah.
The attack is really good.
Yeah, it
And
is.
You play in Dimension Valley, you're just helping the Trevenant player.
Yep.
It's not that easy.
If you attack with Pumpkaboo, which you kind of have because it has more than 30 HP, you have to have the stadium done, and then you're helping them.
You must have... you are basically locked for 4 attacks
Yep.
at maximum. Because you can't get a Amulet takeout, because, well, Phoebe is not an option as soon as Trevenant Break comes in.
It's
really a
hard.
bad
Yeah.
matchup.
It's a really hard matchup. You can also try if you're the Nightmarch player, you can, I guess, try to Shaman spam them, but that doesn't work if they have the right tools, you know. If they have the head ringers, they can seek on your Shaman.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's pretty impossible, I think, as far as it's like the hardest matchup for.
People always try to do that, and that's the right answer. But that Shaman strategy has been in discussion since the Toad Menace has come down last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Ringers, man.
Yeah, but at that time, if I can just go on a little tangent here.
Yeah, go ahead.
There was one deck that could do it, and it was Nightmarch, because you could do it with Mew. So you have both Mew and Shaman, and you could do it with both of them, you know?
Nightmarch.
So, yeah.
I think that's another testament that the deck is so strong. I mean, even when Toad was the most powerful,
Yep.
the Nightmarch was one of the best counters. As
Yeah,
soon
yeah.
as
That is true.
the Trump card, the only card that truly destroys Nightmarch, as soon as Trump card was banned, Nightmarch has become such a great deck.
Yeah.
And on Worlds, people just
And I mean, Trump
realize
card,
the deck is really good.
and Trump card, well, we have to just say this here, because Trump card destroyed Nightmarch if you also item block them. If you don't,
Of course. then
it doesn't
just
do that much.
Do it all again.
Yeah, they can just immediately go off again.
I'd like to talk about something that's really
Okay.
another Verbeck drama, the Battle Compressor. Okay, that card. What do you think about it?
I honestly love the card, which says nothing about its power level, right? I'm not saying it's good.
I do as well.
I'd rather when the card was first printed, I immediately thought it was going to be too good. Mostly because it was in Phantom Forces, right?
It was.
It's the
all
same-
the broken cards are from
Yeah,
Phantom
it's the
Force.
same set that gave you Nightmarch and VS Seeker. And I don't know. I think it's
Battle Compressor VS Seeker is the best engine the game has ever had.
yeah. I mean, I've seen it. I don't really like to play battle compressors in deck where they only are used to bin supporters. I don't think that's that good of a strategy. But in decks where they pull double duty, like they either get Pokemon on your discard pile in Nightmarch, or they get energy on your discard pile for accelerators or stuff like that, where they can both get supporters and do something else. I think it's just insane, the amount of stuff you can do with them.
The one thing I'm really amazed about is how cheap, I mean, on a price tag, how cheap is Battle Compressor. It's like about $5.
Yeah, but it's also a uncommon, I don't know. It's
an uncommon. But if the listeners that played during, I think it was 2006, 2007, there was a card that was not nearly as strong as Battle Compressor. It was Alan's Engine. I think it's Alan's Engine was the name of the engine. It was Alan's Receiver.
okay.
And that card could get a supporter with Alan's on its name. There were a bunch of those. They were slightly less efficient, but because they had the Alan's Receiver who could fetch them from the deck or discard pile, they were all playable. And that's the All-in Engine.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
play
I've
Force
heard
Receiver
about that. Yeah.
and 2 or 1 of each of the supporters. That card was $20 each. Because it was so broken.
That's funny.
I mean, every deck played it.
Yeah, but everyone seems to have their battle compressors, right?
Yeah, well, the game evolved since then. But I think it's amazing how a card was so much weaker than Battle Compressor, was $20 each. And now we with $20 we get a playset of Battle Compressor, and now it's the most expensive it ever has been. I'm amazed.
Yeah,
but
it's funny.
It's really powerful.
Yeah, it's funny to think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think it needs to be banned or well, if Pokemon bans it. Or
I think we can, if you don't mind, can we talk about that at the end, after we, like in the conclusions,
sure.
after we discuss
going on
all
a tangent, so
yeah. So we discuss all the decks and then we get back to the conclusions about what we, because I think I have something to say about that.
Okay. So where were we?
Yeah, Trevenant. We talked about Trevenant. I don't know if you have anything else to say about the deck, or we can move on.
Well, speaking of Battle Compressor, what do you think is the best strategy? Either you get a little bit creative with decks, or you go all in for turn 1 Wally, 4 Battle Compressor, and whatnot.
Oh, with Trevenant, I don't think you need the Battle Compressors, because I've been playing with the deck a little bit, and I've only I'm playing 3 Wally in my deck.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The thing is, let's assume you go first 50% of the time. If you go second, you get the Trevenant always. Okay. With
Ascension, of course.
Yeah, that's going to happen 100% of the time if you go second. If you go first, sometimes you don't. Imagine that it's 50% of the time that you go first, you don't. That would still be 75% of the games, right? And you get it on the second turn, so it's not that too bad. And I usually play it with three Wallies and 2 Shaman, and the deck seems to work. I don't know if that's the right number. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe should be playing 4 Wally because it's just that important. But yeah, so far I've been enjoying the deck as it is. With Trainer's Mail.
Yeah, I like our reasoning because if you focus your deck on getting that first turn, if you go first, then what do you do if you go second? You just can't do anything about it.
Yeah, the thing is, I was getting too many Wallies stuck because you don't really use them that much, So yeah.
So 3 Wallies, no Battle Compressor.
That was my approach at least. But I'm totally fine with being proven wrong.
I'm making the questions now because I have no experience with Trevenant.
Okay.
Just on theory, so...
Actually, the list that I started with wasn't even mine. I started with one of our friends' lists, and he already did some testing on it, and I never changed the amount of Wally.
It was perfect already.
I couldn't complain too much from the games that I played.
What about the Espion EX? Did you play with it?
I have actually, but I haven't played too much, and I was trying it as like a tech against Greninja. That was my because here's my thoughts, and even against Megas, I think it's a fine card. My thought was, okay, you attack with your Trevenant Break 3 times, and if they didn't manage to get Break into play, they just lose all their ninjas. They lose the Frogadiers because they get 90 damaged out. You use the Espion and you devolve all the Greninjas that are in play, and they turn into Frogadiers and they die. That was my the thing that I was thinking about before trying the Espion. This doesn't happen a lot. Unfortunately, it's a little harder to pull off than it seems.
Theorymon.
Yeah, Theorymon. It's okay against Megas because they cannot put the Spirit Links down, so they'd lose a turn evolving, and then you use the Espion. But then after you use the Espion, they get to put the Spirit Link and evolve. So that's kind of bad.
That's a little bit worse.
Yeah, it is.
And since you actually...
There's another problem with Espion, which is sometimes you start with it because it's another basic. It's another chance that you have that you're giving yourself to fail on the turn 1 Trevenant. So.
And it seems it only works on the best case scenario.
Yeah.
It seems like a win more card.
It's Pokemon Christmas Land.
Basically, it's a win more card. So I've seen it in many lists, of course, and I never got the reasoning for that. I really don't think that Espion, because, like you said, you're giving up the item lock, and it only works on the best case scenario that you were going to win anyway. You just win faster. So that's a win more cards.
I think it is a little bit, yeah.
What about Greninja? How does it fare against Trevenant?
Greninja, I think, is a very decent deck against Trevenant. I think it's favored. Actually, I think we can also talk about Greninja in regards to Nightmarch because it's the main topic of today, and I think Greninja is probably, because of Nightmarch being so good, I think Greninja is probably the best deck in format right now.
I think as well. I mean, against Nightmarch, it's a guaranteed win.
Once again, we can talk about this in the conclusions, but the reasons that make Greninja a great deck is, well, it spreads damage, and it spreads a lot of damage. And all of
the breaks are so good.
In most builds, it doesn't even play Shaman. And I was one of the... Well, when I started building Greninja, I was adamant on playing Shaman. And my reasoning for that was I thought that Octillery was bad in the deck, and I still think Octillery is bad. But the thing is, I don't think you need Shaman at all. And it's actually... Well, if you don't play it against Nightmarch, you will end up discarding it for a Sycamore, and they can just target whistle it into play and kill it. So it's kind of...
Even with the two prizes, I think you win anyway.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, it's possible. Maybe it's not that bad. I don't know. It feels kind of scary, and I'm still not sure that you need the Shaman in the Greninja deck.
Well, I think the sole reason why you don't need Shaman is, well, two reasons. That's not just one. One of them is because you have such a thick evolution line, you just don't draw enough from Shaman.
Well, I think
you have 4 Dive Ball, and Dive Ball are so good.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, with Greninja, I think the strategy against Nightmarch is get your Ace Trainer as quickly as possible, and you try to Ace Trainer every single turn while you set up. And once you build the first break, they are in big trouble, because they have to hit 170 damage, and they have to do that and get the energies at the same time and all that, and you're hitting for a lot of damage. You're basically hitting for 60 on the bench and 80 on the active. And
let's try from the other perspective. How does Nightmarch even beats Greninja? I don't see how possible it is.
It is possible if you spam X Maniacs, but it's really hard. I mean, you have to both play the X Maniac.
Thing is, if you spam X Maniac, they will spam Shadow Stitching, and you are always behind, because if you lose
you can't play the Shamans to draw cards that you need to play the DCs and all that. Yeah, that is true.
Not Shaman, neither Milotic, so
that is true. It's a very hard matchup. The problem is the even without the break, Greninja is really strong, because the Greninja's attack can basically kill all your Pokemon except for a Pumpkaboo with a Fighting Fury Belt.
Yeah, even so.
But even so,
active,
most Greninja's deck even play a lot of Megaphones, like 2 or even 3. I've seen that.
3 Megaphones. Oh.
And some even play Jirachi, the one that removes the energy, the special energy, which is even another pain in the neck for the Nightmarch deck to resolve, because if the Greninja retreats for free, so if you attack one of their guys, they promote Froakie, they evolve into Greninja, put the Jirachi down, drop an energy, retreat with the Greninja for free, and attack you. They get rid of your energy, and now you're faced with a hard decision of you either drop an energy down and Lysander something out and kill it, and then lose the energy the next turn again, or you just spend one turn without attacking. And if you do that, well, you know how that goes.
But is it really needed?
I don't know if it's needed, but it sure is.
I've seen lists with 3 Jirachi.
Yeah, it sure is. I think it's very good, actually. And it also helps Greninja with another matchup, which is Toad. But I actually don't think Greninja needs that much.
Well, if you're playing as Toad, you just...
Yeah. I agree.
Do 80 damage.
I think the problem with Greninja is the consistency more than anything else. The deck sometimes loses to itself, I think.
Well, you have that thick evolution line that you must play 4-4-4.
It's a stage 3 deck.
Then 3. Yeah.
It
stage 3 deck with no reliable rare candies, because there's Trainer Lock, and you need to do the Frog of the Year attack.
Yep.
And that's the thing. I think it's always a win against Nightmarch. Even the best case scenario.
It's for sure one of the
Froakie
worst.
lives,
Yeah.
they evolve it into Frogadier, they get another 3.
Yep.
If you kill that, knockout that Frogadier.
They have to get 2 Froakies down, basically. That's it on the early
If
turns.
they get the Froakies down, they win.
That's another spot where I think Jirachi helps. You give less, because most Greninja decks play very few basics. You give less mulligans to your opponent, and you find more basics so that you can have a Froakie on your bench and get something else knocked out, even if it's another Froakie or if it's a Jirachi or something like that.
Yes, but
so that you can evolve into Frogadier and attack.
You only need 2 Froakie.
I agree with that. But if you're only playing the 4th Froakie, you might get in trouble because some of them might be prized or something like that, and then...
Yeah, but you are not going to prize 3 of them. If you do, you'll lose anyway.
Yeah, that is true.
That's
yeah, but you might not find them.
chance.
That's the thing.
Because if you have 2 Froakie on your deck,
yeah, but that's...
you just win. So why Jirachi?
Yeah, kinda.
Because even if they have 20 cards in their hand, they're going to do whatever they want on the first turn. Okay. If you have 2 Froakie, you still win.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's definitely hard.
And against the
but that's how Greninja loses. It's like having some trouble with a line or something like that. That's the only way.
Yeah, but each card that you put in that isn't contributing to that evolution line, which is
that is true.
Strong.
Yeah,
that's
that is true.
Big problem.
Yeah.
You need space for more balls. That's a big ball deck. You can play 4 dive ball. I don't know how much.
4 level ball.
You can play 4 or then ultra ball if you play any other decks.
It's
I mean, if you just have the line and 10 balls maybe or more, I think you have no problem.
I haven't tested it too much. I have to be honest. I've tested a lot against it, but I haven't played the deck myself.
You play Battle Compressor on that deck.
Yeah, I guess. The list that I've seen play it, but I'm not 100% convinced, actually.
Because the way I see that deck losing is if you have no supporter. Because with so many Pokemon and, balls to search for more Pokemon, you can have no support, and Battle Compressor can help you with that.
But how good is a Battle Compressor compared to, I don't know, another draw card supporter, like a Birch or something?
You can filter out your deck and get the support that you need. Because if you have 4 Seeker, 4 Battle Compressor, 4 Seeker...
But what supporters other than, I don't know, Sycamores and Wallis are you playing? You're not playing X-Maniacs, right?
Yeah, you can play Ace Trainer, X-Maniac, since you have Shadow Stitching, there's no need.
Actually, there is, because they might...
It can be,
They might be item locking you.
Yeah.
And you use the X-Maniac to get out of the item lock from Trevenant or Vileplume, I guess.
I guess Vileplume, Vespiquen. Isn't that the biggest bad match?
Yeah, that's the worst against Greninja, but that's just because they take knockouts really, really easily. And the deck, the Greninja isn't... first of all, Greninja, unless you have Muscle Band, which some Greninja decks don't even play, you are not one-hit KOing the Greninja, the Vespiquens, and you have to discard some energy to use the the Shuriken, the one that does 30. I'm not even talking about the break, I'm just talking about the Greninja.
It's Water Shuriken.
Yeah, Water Shuriken.
Yeah.
And if you have the break, it's still the same for them. They can knock you out in a single hit. The deck doesn't work well with single hits on another deck that only gives out 1 prize for each kill. So it's hard for that reason.
With Vileplume.
Vileplume makes it harder, but I don't think it's the worst thing there. I think what totally breaks it is the fact that Vespiquen attacks so easily and kills them so easily and takes 2 hits or 1 hit plus an ability to knock it out.
Do you think it's a viable deck?
What?
Vileplume Vespiquen.
I wouldn't play it myself. I think it's the glassiest of cannons. Of
course.
When it works...
That's the turn 1, you do it or die.
It's not even the fact that you build the Vileplume every single turn 1. You also have to put yourself in a position where you can take advantage of the Vileplumes. The Vespiquens. And the more people learn how to play against it, the worse it gets.
Yeah, the deck
I
is
remember when
much of an answer deck. If your opponent has a solid strategy, if they get it down, you just don't do anything about it.
yeah, I remember when the deck started showing up, people would just concede on PTCGO, and now people actually play the games out, and I've lost a lot of games with that deck, I have to tell you. People are starting to play really nicely with it, against it.
The thing that bothers me with that deck is that you lose to the most random stuff.
Yep, that is true.
If you have, for example, a Lugia EX, okay, just get it down. If you don't knock out that thing right away, it's just game over. It can be, it isn't guaranteed, but it can be just game over because they have one attacker with one energy.
Yep, and you also have the problem that if you, for example, if you discarded a DCE while you are setting up, that's super bad.
And then you have get Bunnelby.
Yeah, it's a mess actually of a game.
So yeah, plus one for Greninja.
Yeah, Bunnelby is a very desperate strategy in that deck, I think.
What about the Wailord? It's been topping some.
Yeah, it has, and I think it's also an answer to Nightmarch, right? I mean.
There you go. Every deck is an answer to Nightmarch.
Yeah, I guess the format kind of shapes itself to one of the most or one of the strongest strategies. Well, Wailord, I don't know. I haven't tested too much, and the reason for that is I built it on PTCGO, and whenever I play it, I feel really bad. Plus, I get a lot of insults in the chat. I'm not kidding. It's people hate to play against Wailord.
It takes a really bad person to enjoy playing Wailord.
Yeah, I guess. It's
basically giving torture to someone.
Yeah, I'm not judging, but you're not playing Pokemon and they're not playing Pokemon, so I'd rather just be at home watching a movie or something.
Everything that surrounds Wailord is just an error of design.
Yeah.
The cards themselves aren't, but allowing that to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you, because that's the opposite of the game, right? That's what you don't want with a mechanic. You want the players to play the game, and Wailord is a way to not play the game. I'd rather just be at home watching a movie instead of playing with or against Wailord.
Have time to watch a movie during a Wailord match.
Yeah, you do. But yeah, I guess the deck is good against Nightmarch. Once again, I do think it sometimes loses to itself a little bit. You kind of need to know how to play it, and it does lose to some weird stuff, like it loses to Manectric decks.
Loses to Vespiquen.
And it loses, yeah. Vespiquen is because you cannot get you get knocked out really easily, because they hit for a lot of damage. And against Manectric decks, it's because they get to reuse their energy over and over again, and you cannot. Yeah, because the Wailord deck, it's not really about healing all that much, you know. It's a lot more about getting rid of energy than it is about healing. So if you actually manage to accelerate a lot of energy really quickly, the deck
wins against decks that must get rid of half of their deck on the first turn.
For example, that's
because they win by
exactly. And not only that, but Nightmarch plays 4 DCE, and if they're not taking prizes, some of the DCE might be prized, and they might have discarded the puzzles, so they don't have access to extra DCEs. Mm-hmm. And if you just get rid of all their energy, they are in big trouble, because you can like in a turn you get rid of the energy, the other you heal, and it's really hard for them to deal with that. Plus you have what's the name of the EG/EX, and they kind of have to X, so they can kill it.
You know, a funny thing, of course there's luck of the draw involved, but whenever you mention you're playing Wailord,
yeah,
if your opponent reveals his hand and you do the math, since the matchup is always battle for resources and not the board, if you do the math, you can actually on the first turn decide who wins. I think you can do that. There's luck of the draw involved. If there's a judge,
that's actually not true, because I don't know if you saw any Wailord lists recently, but they are playing a card called Durant from Flashfire. Do you know about it?
I'm assuming players will play around that. But if you do, there's not just counting the resources.
I don't know, man. It's really hard. I mean, because if they imagine that they have a Wailord down and you just pass over and over again, they might just go on a single turn. They might just go Durant energy, what's the name of the supporter? Cassius. They shuffle the attacker, the active on the deck. They promote the Durant. They hit you, and you discard like 10 cards.
Yeah.
You're in huge trouble at that point.
Well, you're right. I actually haven't thought of Durant.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't do the math. You have to play an hour of a match. Okay.
Yeah. If you have Durant,
there's no way around it.
Yeah, they have been playing Durants because of that reason. I mean, it's usually the old Wailord decks use that supporter. That's what's the name of it?
Uke.
Yeah. But now they use Durant to do basically the same thing. They kind of forced to play.
It's a little more effective, actually.
Yeah, it is. But you can, but you have to play energy and all that, so you can.
Yeah. But you have Puzzle of Time now.
Yep.
So we have more resources.
Yeah, that is true.
And what do you think about Durant in Greninja for the mirror match?
For the mirror, I haven't thought about that at all.
Well, David has won, I think, a regional with that list. I can show you. But basically, he played Durant for the mirror match. Because if you're playing a mirror match for Ninja, you have rough seas down, you're shadow stitching each other, there's no damage on the board. So eventually, the players will fill their hand, but if you get the Durant down, you'll just discard so many resources, then you just, on the next turn, go back to the healing, then shadow stitching, and you will win by deck out.
I see. That seems... I don't know. I haven't tested that at all. I haven't even thought about it.
It can work.
Yeah, maybe.
And he's had pretty... I think it was second.
I have to tell you, I saw an Greninja mirror match this past weekend. And it seemed like they were doing fine dealing damage to each other. I don't know what decides the matchup. It kind of feels like it's...
Well, it depends on the list, because if you have rough seas and no other stadium and shadow stitching, how do you do damage?
Yeah, that is true. That's right.
Because lists now play 3 shadow stitching.
You know what I've seen in Greninja instead of Durant? I've seen Delinquent.
Delinquent?
Yeah.
You discard the stadium.
You discard the stadium, you heal, you discard the stadium, you make them discard cards.
Well,
yeah.
I think that's much better than Durant.
Yeah, I've seen...
Isn't it? You keep the power lock.
And it's only one card, right, if you play the Delinquent.
And you can reuse it with the
Vespiquen,
and you don't break the lock. That's much better.
Yeah.
Much better than Durant.
Yeah.
Well, I will have to try that.
Well, can we move on to another deck?
Wailord, now Giratina and Reshiram.
Yeah, Giratina and Reshiram. It's another deck that I think...
it beats Nightmarch. Okay.
Well, people say it beats Nightmarch. I actually do not agree with that at all.
Okay, but let's imagine it beats Nightmarch 100% of the time.
Okay,
what now?
Yeah. I've seen some people playing Flareon from Generations as a secondary attacker, but I don't think it's that great. I mean, the deck...
We've been talking about Greninja, and Flareon does not
because the deck doesn't play a lot of support for Flareon, so it doesn't play Blacksmiths or anything like that. And even against Nightmarch, you do not win against Nightmarch attacking with Giratina in the Reshiram deck. And the reason for that is it's super easy for Nightmarch to get rid of your energies. If they tech a single enhanced hammer, they can play it 3 times.
Without take of Puzzle of Time.
Yeah. With Puzzle of Time, they can play it 3 times. And I'm not even talking about Zerozic, which you can get back with VS Seeker. Unless you play puzzles on your Giratina Reshiram, which I've seen no one do because it's such a stuffy deck with a lot of random cards thrown in there. I don't think you have the space. I mean, you're playing... Jesus Christ, the list that I've seen, they play Max Elixir with only like 8 fire energy.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, and you kind of have to hit sometimes, at least half of them. And then, you have to play a million cards just to make this work, and I don't think it works at all, because if the Nightmarch deck is playing Enhanced Hammer and Zerozic, you're going to lose, because they're going to get rid of all your energy, and they're going to just deck you out.
Yeah, and even if you had that matchup locked in, you'll lose against everything.
Yeah.
So, that deck... I mean, people are desperate to counter Nightmarch.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why these kind of decks they tend to show up, and that's good. That's good because people get creative
Yeah,
instead of just giving
that
up.
is true.
We see some new decks popping up, even if they're not as efficient as the current ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, it's just not a good deck.
I think this brings us to another thing. We can, I guess, talk about one of the older decks that I think is still playable, which is Tina, because we still have Giratina in the same deck. And I think, I've played a lot with Nightmarch. I don't know if I mentioned this anywhere in the social media or anything like that, but last weekend I played in originals with Nightmarch, and I got top 4. And,
congrats!
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think I got a little bit lucky in the pairings, but that's
What did you play against?
That's every tournament that you win.
Let's do a recap.
Okay, a quick recap, just not get too out of line with our theme. First match I played against what's the name of the Garchomp, and the second match it was against Mega Manectric. Both were wins, and then I played against Nightmarch, which I also won.
Okay.
And then I played against sorry, the third match was against Straight Toad and I lost, and then I played against Nightmarch and I won, and then the last one I played against David and it was an ID. He was playing Straight Toad. We did play the match just for fun, and he was going to destroy me, so I was kind of happy that I did. And then on the top 8 I faced Tina and I won, so this is exactly the thing that I was talking about. And then I got Straight Toad and I lost again to Straight Toad.
Okay,
so you can see my point of view as a Nightmarch player.
Yeah. So Giratina Reshiram, which is even though the deck is bad, it's the fastest way you can get the Giratina online.
Yeah. Your goal is to lock out
the thing doesn't work, so why play Giratina at all?
I don't think you should play Giratina at all. I think it's a bad card right now. If there were megas or something in the format, maybe, but just for Nightmarch, I don't think it's good. You're not item locking them, so you're giving them a chance. Well, my top 8 match speaks for itself. My opponent was attacking with Toad, and I was struggling. But once I got all the Nightmarches that I needed into the discard pile, and I killed the Toad. Actually, it was a 2-hit. Like, you hit once, you don't kill the Toad, and then you hit again, and you do. He was forced to attack with the Giratina that he was building on the bench. And immediately, on the next turn, I get rid of 2 of his energies on the Giratina that was now active. And also the energy that he had on his Toad on the bench. So I got rid of 3 energy in the same turn.
What do you think if he did attack with Toad? The second Toad? I
think he would kill at least another Nightmarcher. And he would force me to find another DCE.
So yeah,
I had a DCE down, and I just destroyed him right then and there. I got rid of all his energies and then the next turn he was kind of forced. He was struggling because he had to retreat with Giratina and come forth with a Toad, or else he wasn't going to be attacking. So he basically ended up passing the turn with Giratina active, and I played the energy that I had in my hand that I couldn't play the turn before, and I just killed the Giratina and kept on with the game.
So Giratina seems to be just a weakness waiting to be exploited.
Yeah, I think that game was just too conclusive for me, because I actually had tested it before the weekend before, so I was pretty confident. But as soon as my opponent, I was just crossing my fingers and saying, please, please, please attack me with Giratina instead of Toad, and he did, and I got rid of 3 energy in the same turn, man. I played 2 I played Ines Dammer, Zerozik, and then I puzzled for the Ines Dammer again and played it again.
Yeah, there are a lot of small plays and decisions on deck building that can make Nightmarch is too fast of a deck to be careless.
It's super consistent. You can get everything that you want at all times. You can't obviously, but as the Nightmarch player, you can't assume that you are going to. But as the opponent, you have to assume that your opponent is going to get everything. Yeah. So yeah,
because you were always on defensive.
Yeah, and I think this we can just jump right here for the next deck that we have here, or the last one that we wrote down to talk about, which is Straight Toad, because I think that's the most that's one of the best decks right now against Nightmarch.
But against Nightmarch.
Yep.
Okay. What about the rest? Because we've pretty
straight out against the rest of the format.
Yeah.
I think it still has game against pretty much everything. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can build this deck. You can do it with Slowking. You can build it with Trubbish. You can build it with neither of those guys. You can just go for the Toad. You can add because you only play Toads. You have a lot of space in your deck. You can play Water Energy, and at some point you just Grenade Hammer. They play their turn, whatever it may be, and then the next turn you Lysander a Shaman and then KO the Shaman. And that's 4 prizes in 2 turns, you know?
Yeah. Trainer Lock is really, really strong.
Yep.
I mean,
sometimes it's
item lock.
Yeah.
To be more specific. I mean, the thing is, we have Bottle Compressor. Okay, people ate the card. Okay, but it just warps the deck building process around it.
Yep.
And decks now tend to rely too much on items, because Toadie is just I think Toadie is a really, really bad card on a vacuum, because 30 damage on
if you had no support,
of course, if you have no support, it's a bad card. But
for a while it was kind of bad, right? People were saying, the damage output is not there. Maybe the card isn't playable now. Yeah,
because Toad always relied on Hypnotoxic Laser to do damage.
Yeah, that's true.
30 was just not enough.
Yeah, but the thing is, you either played it with Tina so that you can close the games with 100 damage shots.
Mm-hmm.
So you usually took the first 2 prizes with a Toad, like really slowly, and then you get the opponent's Pokemon to 100 below 100 HP.
Yeah.
And then you Tina, and then you Lysander for the Shaman and Tina again. That's the dream, right?
Yeah.
With straight Toad, it's basically the same, but you don't play the Tina, you just play Toads.
Because you don't need it. If you're using Giratina for the damage, you just load up a Toad to the Grenade Hammer.
I think that's the conclusion with the deck, I think, with Toad decks. And because you can play it so many ways, I know people struggled it in the regionals that I played. I know people struggled against Greninja, which ended up winning the tournament in a top 8 that had basically 1 Yveltal deck, 1 Nightmarch deck, 1 Greninja, and 5 Toad decks. That was a top 8. And Greninja won fairly easy, I would say.
I mean, if you're playing against Toad, if you get 1 Greninja out, you just won. Because if you get the rough seas,
so hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super, super hard for the Toad deck to win.
I think the one thing that makes the matchup really hard is the attack that returns an energy to your hand. That wins the match.
Yep, that's...
Because Toad wins by...
It does so much damage. I mean, for just a single energy, it's 80 damage.
80 damage.
Yeah.
And it could be 100.
You don't lose the energy.
If
it
you
stays
don't
in
lose
your
the
hand.
energy, you just win against Toad.
Yeah, that is true. But once again, the straight Toad deck can be built in a lot of ways, and I'm still not convinced.
Challenge to make Toad viable.
I think you can make it so that Greninja, the Greninja matchup, it's not that such a win for Greninja. You know, I think you can play it with Trubbish. And it might seem that the Greninja deck could just play ways to get rid of your tools, but they are item locked, so that way to get rid of the tool has to be a Zerozic, right? And if they only play 1, they cannot Via Seeker for it, so you can only have a single turn where they have to kill the Garbodor, which has 100 HP, so they kind of have to... 2 break abilities are not enough to kill the Garbodor. It has to be something else, you know? So
I was thinking
it kind of feels good against them.
Yeah. Another strategy that you can go is try to bait them into using the abilities as much as they can. Greninja plays about 8 basics, and since you lock them, once those 2 fishermen are gone, there's no way to get them back. And with the item lock, it's harder to draw cards.
I guess.
So the energies are a really precious resource.
So you kind of
play win because of the I think it's Moonlight something. Okay, the attack that returns the energy to your hand.
Yeah, Moonlight Slash, I think.
That and Rough Seas, of course.
Yeah.
And if you go by the What's a card at the stadium? I'm really bad with names.
Delinquent.
Delinquent. Okay, if you go with Delinquent, you discard the rough seas, and then discard cards from their hand. Since they're item locked, their hand will not be as well. They can't draw cards as fluidly as they would. And Greninja is a deck where you don't draw as many cards as other decks because you have you can't have shape.
That is true. Yeah.
So if you discard the Rorsies, you maybe play a Stadium of your own to VS Seeker and use Delinquent again. Eventually they will run out of resources, and as soon as you get all the energies out, you just win.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will lose eventually. But if you bait some abilities,
maybe you can do that. I don't know. I think we have to test because I'm not 100%.
Oh, it needs a lot of testing because it's a.
I'm not 100. It's just that I'm not 100% convinced that we can actually get rid of the. They usually play 8 energy in their decks, but yeah, that is one route we can go, like trying to bait them out of playing the.
Because if they
all the
don't
energy
get those fishermen,
yeah,
that's the way you can win.
In my mind, I still think Trubbish might be nice there, but I don't know.
Well, also it's good against the other decks, so.
Yeah, I guess.
For example, Trevenant.
Yeah, but against Trevenant, you only have a single window where you have to put the tool down, against, because
but if you do,
they are kind of in trouble.
So
some of them also play the Zerosic, so
but
I mean you are kind of
not be useless.
Sorry,
but what I'm saying is that Garbodor wouldn't be as useless.
Sure.
Be useful on one matchup.
You do what you can, right?
yeah. Oh well. Straight Toad, it's a challenge. I think Toad now is a really challenging deck to build.
Let's just take a moment to consider how Toad went from the bad guy of the format to the hero.
Is Toad the good guy now?
I don't think it is. I mean, in America, maybe. I when I was playing the regionals, I totally felt like I was the good guy fighting the good fight against Toad. I still felt exactly the same way that I felt every other tournament that I played, where basically Toad was king, and I was just the little guy.
The fight is never against Toad; it's more against the Crushing Hammer.
Yeah, exactly. I also agree with that. Yeah, agree with that.
I've played Dialga for 3 years, and Dialga just did that. He locked from items from turn 1 to turn whatever. And I hate Toad.
Yeah.
Because Dialga didn't play hammers. He didn't destroy energy. Well, maybe with remove lost. But whatever. Crushing hammers are...
Yeah, Crushing Hammer is a pretty sick card.
That and laser.
I will...
Hammer, I think it's way worse than laser.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. When I started playing... actually, I mentioned in the beginning when I was introducing myself that I've been playing for almost 2 years now.
Yeah, what was legal when you started playing?
But I actually started playing in the base set. The first edition.
Oh, yeah.
And then I quit. I was a kid. And back then there was a card named Energy Removal.
Oh, man.
Which was Crushing Hammer without flips. And it was basically the format. The whole format was Energy Removal after Energy Removal. And then Item Finder, which was Chunk Arm for Energy Removal again. And that was basically the whole format. It's totally sick.
That must have been a nightmare.
Yeah. Oh well. Can we have gone for a long time now, so can we draw the conclusions about our conversation?
Basically, Nightmarch is a deck that you must accept that it's really, really good.
Yeah.
It isn't, however, unbeatable. As much as people would like to see something banned, that isn't the solution. It's really bad for the game if they take that route. You need to exploit the weaknesses of a deck that just tries to basically discard half or more of the deck on the first turn. An item lock or multiple damage in the way they can recover from is the best way. What do you think?
I agree with you, and I would even say that it's not only people are only looking at Battle Compressor, and they're not looking at Crushing Hammer. And the reason I say that is, Battle Compressor is indeed a powerful card that you basically base your whole deck around, right? Nightmarch is a deck built around Battle Compressor more than anything else. Of course, you also have Vespiquen decks that can do the same, but not as effectively, just because Vespiquen doesn't do as much damage for each card you discard as Nightmarch does.
Yeah.
And also Nightmarch, you can because of that you can have more cards in your deck that are not Pokemon. The Vespiquen decks have to play like 20 Pokemon, and the Nightmarch decks don't, basically, which just gives you more space. So it's more effective with the less cards. And Battle Compressor is indeed powerful, and it does shape the meta in some way, but you have no way of having strong cards that don't shape the meta. You know, if you ban Battle Compressor, something else will be the card that will shape the deck, that will shape the format. And Nightmarch is not even unbeatable. I have to tell you, I played originals with it, and I always felt like I was not favorable to win any of the top matches that I played. Of course, against Mega Manetric I was feeling pretty good, you know, and of course against Garchomp I was feeling that if I hit the Startling Megaphones at the right time against the Focus Sash, I was going to be doing well. But other than that, it was a really scary experience, to be honest. Playing against Toad, or the possibility of playing against Greninja, which I didn't, was just super, super scary. Because I'm pretty sure they would kill me.
Yeah, I think that's the definition of a healthy state of
exactly.
the game.
I was actually quite impressed. You know, I think Toad was the most represented deck, at least in the top tables. I don't know the right numbers, but it was definitely the deck of the format. Nobody
talks about Toad.
Yeah, it was definitely the deck of the format. I think Crushing Hammer was probably the most played card there. Well, except for the obvious Sycamores and VS Seekers.
Oh, of course. But Crushing Hammer is one of those cards that... Well, that would just require a podcast in itself to talk about Crushing Hammer.
We can do that in the future if people want.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. It's going to be the hate train, but... But yeah, it's another one of those cards, you know, that shapes... Basically, Toad is not built around Toad, it's built around Crushing Hammer. Because if you take away the Crushing Hammer, you're item locking your opponent, but you're dealing 30 damage, and they're going to build a bigger guy than your Toad, and they're just going to hit you in the head and kill you. So
when those strategies just thrive, that's a bad state of the game.
Yeah.
When a fair deck, I know it's strange, but Nightmarch is really a fair deck. When a fair deck is the best deck in format, the format is in a healthy state. Just an aggressive, proactive deck.
Yeah.
If there was like Toad was like last year, that's a bad state of the game.
You have to give a lot away with Nightmarch. If the opponent is trading, the decks that win against Nightmarch are...
in no way it's a brainless deck.
Yeah.
In no way.
I totally agree with that. I mean, what decks win against Nightmarch? Well, Toad decks win because they can just lock you out of items, which are more than 50% of your deck, so you don't have access to basically anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then Greninja decks, because they basically trade better than you on prizes. So you kind of
does both things. So
you're giving stuff away by building Nightmarch. You're giving away the fact that you're playing a lot of items. So if you might get locked out of all those cards, and you're also giving away the fact that if you're basing yourself on the assumption that you're going to draw more prizes than your opponent.
And for those who say, "Oh, I just play Nightmarch, X games were easy." Okay, if you're playing Nightmarch, you're basically the one person everyone's building their deck to beat.
Yeah. But that's what you want with every deck, right? You want to be the guy that builds the deck that has easy matchups, right?
Of course. That doesn't mean that you are playing something that's just easy wins.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you're going to be winning against everything.
Yeah, everyone is going to be prepared against you.
I don't know. I think people are going to hate on us because this is the first... I think this is really ballsy on our part, I have to say. Mm-hmm. This is the first podcast and we are talking on behalf of Nightmarch.
Yeah, but with so many articles out there that defend Nightmarch and how to play Nightmarch...
I totally agree. It's not unanimous. It is unanimous against the most of the good players, I think, from what I've seen at least. You might not like the strategy for yourself. I'm totally fine with that, but you have to agree that
that's the first turn that's really oppressive. Is the 5-minute turn.
Oh yeah.
He likes.
That's terrible. I think that's part of the hate because people play most of their matches on PTCGO, and it's super annoying to start playing a match and just have to wait 10 minutes to have your first turn. I have to agree with that. That is, it's not that bad on paper because people take shortcuts and all that, and it's easier to manipulate the cards than it is on an iPad, for example. But I do agree that it's annoying. But I don't know. I losing like really slowly against an executor cannot be better.
That's
than,
not 5 minute first turn, but that's like an hour for the match.
Then playing against Nightmarch. So I guess that's on my part. I think that's all I had to say about Nightmarch.
Yeah, I think it pretty much the conclusion that we wanted to get out to the world.
We have gone over an hour on this conversation. I don't know how much you were hoping for with our first podcast.
I thought it was like half an hour, but that was our first try, so it's normal to go a little bit over our.
I guess. I think as a way to close, we can tell our listeners what they can expect in the next.
Oh yeah. We both like to talk about the more theoretical aspects and strategy aspects of this game. So
stuff that's not really tied to anything specific that's going on at the moment, like some theory, like when to play the right time to play each card, stuff like that. I think it's something interesting to discuss. We're going to try to be as current as possible because that makes it more interesting for the listeners, I think.
Oh yeah, we are always going to have a podcast talking about the meta.
Yeah, and you're also free to interact with us. I mean, you know my channel, so you can always
give us
reach me.
Your feedback. We will answer.
Yeah, please. We need feedback. We need direction. We need to know where to go. But I can tell you that we are thinking about inviting other people over on.
So you can suggest also.
Yeah, you can also suggest people, and you can. I don't know. We were just trying the first episode alone, but I think it's going to be funnier if we bring other. Like a third person over. But yeah, this was the introduction to our podcast. So yeah, guys, tell us what you think about it. Tell us. Where should we go? Was this interesting? Wasn't it? Should we do smaller podcasts or longer podcasts? And also, I just want to close out by telling you guys where to find us. Well, you can find us on Pokédex, my channel, because I'm going to upload the podcast there as a video. With just the sound. I mean, you can just listen to it without looking at the screen. But also, we're going to be posting on SoundCloud as well, right?
Yeah.
We still haven't created the page, but I'll be posting the links on my YouTube channel, which is probably the first place where you're going to find this, unless we post the link somewhere, like Verbank or something like that, right?
Yeah, we want to give you something to listen while you have a long commute to work, so you can just get the audio. We'll provide it to you. So you can just listen on the go.
Yeah, you can just listen for 1 hour of us talking, and you can just get really, really mad. And then when you get home, you write us an angry email.
We'll read it.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Do you want to add anything else, João?
Well, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to your podcast. It's been really fun, and I'm looking forward.
It's our podcast now because you're a co-host. So.
Oh, I feel so blessed.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward for our next topic. So, till then.
Yeah. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.